All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Schlank Show. My name is Seth Schlank, and I am very excited to be joined today by Tyler Matzek, pitcher for the Atlanta Braves. Thank you for taking your time to join me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate you reaching out and having me on the show.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you again. Yeah. All right. So, first things first. Very common question, I guess. When did you first fall in love, per se, with baseball?
Well, baseball's a love-hate relationship. I fell in love with it when I was a kid, for sure, and then when it goes from being a game that a kid's playing and having fun with, when it turns into a job, you kind of have some times where you really hate the job.
Right.
So the more often you can keep that mindset of like a kid and it's just a game, the more fun, the more love you have for the game. So yeah, it goes back and forth, but right now it's definitely love. And yeah, man, it's kind of just been my life, my whole life.
Gotcha. Right. So you played in high school, I assume, right? What
Yeah.
was that high school baseball like?
Um, a lot of these guys that are in the big leagues and just a lot of very good baseball players, they always make their high school team as a freshman, sophomore at the latest. I'm talking about their varsity team. I
Right.
didn't make my varsity team till my junior year. When I was a junior, all I did was pitch, and then I didn't start actually hitting until my senior year. So, it was a little bit different. I wouldn't say it's discouraging because I knew we had a very good high school where there was
Mhm.
guys in front of me. But for guys out there that are possibly listening that are, if I'm not on varsity my freshman year, there's no chance, blah blah blah. I didn't make my varsity team until I was a junior, and even then I just pitched. So it was definitely possible. And I mean, as a whole, then it was great to be a baseball player. And again, that was still when baseball was fun, man. And it wasn't a job. It was just go
Right.
out there, have fun, and do your thing.
Yeah. So my next question for you is related to that. So you played in the high school with Kyle Hendricks. What was it like?
Mm-hmm.
Right. What was that like being able to grow up and playing playing high school with someone who also ended up becoming a big leaguer?
Yeah, Kyle was great, man. When I was a junior, he was a senior, so he would start, and then I would start. We were the two starting pitchers that year, and yeah, man, it was great. He was a different pitcher back then. He threw hard. He threw like 92, 93, 94. Um, he had good stuff. He has the same stuff he has now. It was just a tick harder.
Mhm.
And yeah, he was just a great person. He's really quiet, and he was quiet now, and he was quiet then. And yeah, it was just great to be on a team with him and kind of just pick his brain. He was still at the same level as me and stuff, but I mean, he was still a year older, so I kind of looked up to him then. And I love watching him now in games. He's the professor, and he goes out there and gets guys out with some stuff that I don't understand how he's throwing or how he's doing it, but he does it.
All right. So how long after you graduated high school, or how long into your high school career did you think that you might have a chance to be able to play professionally?
So the first time I ever had oh man, I think I could do this. Was we were facing Garrett Cole, who played at Orange Lutheran. That would have been my junior year, like a preseason game. And Garrett Cole was a grade year before me, and there was, I mean, he was looking to go, top number one overall that draft coming up. And so he had like 15, 20 plus scouts there. And it just happened to be the day that I was starting. Went out there, we put up a 6 spot on Garrett in the very first inning, had a
Mhm.
couple homers, I think. Like we were just crushing it. And then I went out, I pitched like 5 or 6 innings. They didn't touch a baseball. One of my better starts as a junior. And then from then on, it was kind of like, hey, whoa, I actually might be able to do this. And scouts started recognizing, got invited to some showcases. And then, yeah, thing kind of just took off after that.
All right. So after you finished high school, how long after that did you get drafted?
So I got drafted while I was still in high school.
Okay.
Yeah. So the draft happens basically right at the end of high school, right when you're finishing up summer. I think it was like a week left or maybe a week out of high school. So I got drafted right there senior year. I mean, I kind of was just telling the teachers like, look, I just need to get good grades in your class and I'm out of here. And they're like, yeah, sure. Whatever you say, bud. And then all of a sudden, hey, you're getting drafted first round. And teachers were like, wait, you weren't joking around. I was like, I was trying to tell you, man, I just need to get a B or a C in your class, man. And I'm good to go. And yeah, man, it was great to be, back in the day, be the talk of the town in the high school and stuff like that. But, you go from being a big fish in a small pond to being a small fish in a very big pond once you get drafted. Lesson.
So does the process from the time that you get drafted to the time that you report to the Rockies camp, what's that like for you? Or what was that like for you personally?
Yeah, so when I got drafted, the Rockies and we had a conversation. We weren't even close with what like the signing money was going to be. So I was like, all right, well, I fell in the draft. Nobody wanted to take me for the money I was asking for. I guess I'm going to go to college. So I was already lined up to go to college. And then 30 minutes before the signing deadline, the Rockies called. We hashed out a deal really quick. And boom, right then I'm a professional baseball player. And so from that point on, baseball became a job. And I think that's where I kind of messed up with my mindset was I started taking it like a job instead of just being like, yo, this is baseball. Just go out, play, have fun, understand that you're going to fail and go from there. It's kind of tough as a kid. I was like 18 years old, moving to Tucson to live in a hotel. I was fortunate enough to have some good roommates when I was living in the hotels and stuff. That kind of showed me like, hey man, like, we've been doing this for a while. Like I'll show you some tricks. And it was tough as an 18-year-old to just go ahead and be living in a hotel, playing baseball every single day. It's kind of a mental grind.
Right. So, and when you talk about a mental grind, how did the rest of the season play out for you?
Yeah. So they sent me the very first season. They sent me to extended spring training just to kind of, keep an eye on me. They wanted the higher ups to be able to watch me a little bit more. And then they eventually sent me to Asheville, North Carolina, which is the single A team for the Rockies. And, I walked away from that season having a bad taste in my mouth, thinking like, I did terrible. And if I go and look back at it now, it was a great season. I had a 2-something ERA, decent number of strikeouts, a few more walks than I would have hoped for. But I think that's where my mental immaturity kind of hurt me there. Was I walked away from that season thinking like, man, I can't do this. I stink. There's no way I'm going to make it to the big leagues. And I had a heck of a year. And, I think that self-doubt caused a lot of problems. And, overall, I loved the season, like, just being in Asheville and all that stuff. But it kind of, looking back on it, I did better than I thought I did at the time.
Gotcha. So then, after you finished that season, what do you make any changes to your wind up to your preparation or anything during that off season?
During that off season, I didn't really do anything mechanical that I hadn't done in the past. Maybe I should have done some things. And I wish I would have changed my mental game more than anything in that off season. Physically, I felt like I was pretty solid, pretty good mechanics and stuff that got me drafted in the first round. So that stuff was all solid. What was going on between my ears is what I needed to fix. And I neglected to do so until much later in my career.
So how did that season play out? You said you were struggling mentally and you didn't know what to do, but how did that play out in the next season?
Yeah, I was so negative and so hard on myself. Went to Modesto, which is the high advanced single A for the Rockies, which is like an actual, a nice progression. You should be going up one level a year. And I went there and I just struggled. I could not throw a strike. I was just beating myself up. if the hitter wasn't beating me up, I was beating myself up, and it was just a recipe for disaster. Honestly, I was so negative in my mindset, so negative on the field, so negative off the field, and it all started, years and years and years before, where I just had always been, doubting myself and always saying like, no, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that, I'm not good at this, instead of just saying like, I can get better at this, I'm very good at this. And so, I just always looked at the negative side of things, and it just kind of eventually came to a head, and everything kind of just fell apart, and wasn't able to really even play baseball at that point. And this is when I really started, like, first time I started like hating baseball. It's like I couldn't even play.
Right.
And it was just miserable to be on the field, and just, it was not a good place. So they eventually sent me home to go work with another pitching coach, and kind of, looking back, I was saying it was a physical thing, but really the coach that I worked with, he, fixed not really many mechanical things, and just kind of worked with my mind. It was just like, oh, that's a great pitch, blah, 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 and, kind of just brought my confidence back. And I was so easy to be manipulated, or not manipulated, but to have my opinions about me from other people weighed so heavily on me that when they said a positive thing, it like was where I got my confidence from, which is not a good thing. And, it's easy to crack. But that was how my first year in Modesto went. It was not pretty.
Right. So after you had that really unfortunate, after you had that difficult year, what did you do, to change that? Because I know we talked about, before, that it wasn't much change that you thought you should have done the previous offseason. How do you go about that in the next offseason?
Yeah. So then the next year I started working with a guy named Andy McKay. He came in, he was the Rockies mental skills guy. They hired him that year, and he started working with me directly. And for the next offseason, we read a book every week. I'd call him, we'd talk about things. I was working on my mental strength more than anything in my delivery or my body or anything. And that's really where it helped. I lost some velocity in my delivery because I think I was spending so much time on my mental side. I just wanted to throw strikes and all this stuff. Short term, it wasn't very good. Long term, I think it was amazing. I think it was the best thing for me. I think it gave me an understanding of how to get to the big leagues and all that, and how to basically just at the end of the night be able to go home and sleep without having to stress out and freak out because I threw, I walked a guy or something like that. So it was, working with Andy McKay was definitely the turning point to introducing me to the mental game and turning me into, I think, a mentally much stronger person.
Right. So after during the 2012 season, you were named an All-Star in the California League. How did that impact you? I know you said that before that you had trouble. You were struggling mentally going in, during the past season. Did that All-Star appearance affect you at all?
I mean, it does a little bit. Those things are kind of just voted on, and I mean, it's not that big of a thing for me.
Right.
It was, I think that baseball was becoming fun again. I was starting to have fun with the players around me. Starting to realize like, hey, it's not get to the big leagues or, your life's over kind of thing, man. It's just getting to the big leagues is a goal I would like to do. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, it's okay. Life goes on kind of thing. And I was able to take it day to day at the field. And then the teammates I had around me, they just brought a good energy, a good vibe, and just made baseball a much better place. The field a much better place to be at. And then I think that the result of going to an All-Star game was because of that. Just showing up and having fun at the field was a big thing, and it allowed me to be there and actually get some good work in because I wasn't there miserable.
Right, that made sense. So then during the 2013 season, you played with Tulsa in DoubleA, right? You said that you should be progressing another league every year.
Yeah.
So how great did that feel to get that promotion?
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. I mean, when you start getting into AA, you're knocking on the doors of the big leagues. You know, guys can go up from AA to the big leagues all the time, and you know, you're starting to play guys that can do that as well. And so you start realizing that, you know, you're going to start failing a little bit more, and you got to learn how to, you know, adjust from that and go on. And yeah, man, it was just, Tulsa was a great place to play too. And I really love my time there. I mean, my wife and I talk about it all the time. That's probably one of the most amazing seasons that we had in the minor leagues.
Right. And in postseason, you played in the Arizona Fall League.
Mm-hmm.
After that's from the front office. How awesome did that feel?
Yeah, it was great to be invited to that. It was great. They sent me there as a reliever, which was the first time I'd done that in my career ever. I mean, just even as a kid, didn't really relieve as a kid, and you know, just being able to do it was an awesome experience. And I mean, look at me now. I'm a reliever right now for the Braves. So you know, I credit kind of getting a program or having a program. You know, was taught to me, you know, in the Arizona Fall League. So I look back at it as a great learning place for me. And I really, you know, the information I received while I was there from some of the best coaches in the country was amazing.
Right. Yeah. I've always thought that that's probably the best experience from the outsider's point of view. That's probably the best
Mm-hmm.
experience to be able to, everyone's watching you. Also, the front office, other guys also to be able to learn from other people who are just as great as you are.
Yeah, and you're
Experiences.
facing guys that are going to be in the big leagues the next year. You're facing
Right.
the cream of the crop talent, you know, both on the mound and at the plate. So
Mhm.
it's you're really starting to find out who's who and who's going to be in the big leagues the next year.
Right. So speaking about the big leagues, you were added to the 40-man roster in November of 2013. But then you started the next season with AAA.
Mm-hmm.
You played, if I was to be correct, you played. You were in big league spring training that year.
Mm-hmm.
So what goes into that, and how's that really different than the minor league spring training?
Yeah, so I believe that was 2014 spring
Right. Yeah.
training, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 2014 spring training. So I was in spring training there as a reliever. That's where they were looking to start me out, possibly. I made it pretty late in spring training, and I think like a week and a half or 2 weeks before, they um, sent me down to the minor leagues.
Right.
And so like, all right, well, I guess I'm probably still going to relieve. That's what they're going to look at me. And then next thing you know, they're saying, hey, no, we need you to start, and you're going to be starting, you know, the opening day of the minor league season. So I'm like, all right, awesome. So, or,
Right.
you know, it was whatever. I'm not, maybe not the opening day, but I was going to be in the first rotation. You know, I was
Uh-huh.
going to be one of the first 5 games. So going from throwing 1 innings to, all right, now you got to expect it to throw 4, 5, 6, 7 innings. You know, it's kind of a physical thing. So I remember thinking like, okay, this is going to be a weird jump. Was able to do it, stayed healthy when making that inning jump. And then, you know, injuries happened to just happen up at the big league level. And my name got called to go up there. And yeah, I just went up there and had my debut. And I think it was June 15th,
Yeah.
2014. And yeah, and from then on, I was just like, all right, man, just go out there and have fun. At this point, my mental strength was there. You know, everything felt good. I was out there just competing, having fun.
Right. So
And yeah, had a
yeah,
great year that 2014 year.
yeah, sounds awesome. So you were promoted, and then you actually made your debut against the Braves. Do you remember anything about that first game, or is it all kind of like a whirlwind?
It's all kind of a whirlwind, but I do remember one thing. And I remind this guy all the time. Not all the time, but I do remind this guy. But Freddie Freeman was my first strikeout. And so whenever I see him, I let him know, like, hey, man, you're number one in my book. And he kind of laughs and says, all right, all right. And then, I mean, in his defense, I don't think it was a strike. Like the umpire kind of screwed him on a call, but hey, a
Uh-huh.
strikeout's a strikeout. So I thought it was a great first strikeout to have was that guy. And then, you know, it's kind of come full circle where now I'm playing for the Braves, and
Right.
it's my home now.
Right. So Later that season, you got your first complete game. How great was that for you? You know, being able to go from somewhere 2 years ago you were struggling mentally, and now you're able to throw an entire game completely.
Yeah. I think back then I was so no, I was still hard on myself, so I didn't really get to enjoy like what I actually did. I think what you're referring to is the game against San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah, the complete game shutout I had against them, 3-hitter. Yeah, man, it was when I was done there, I was like, all right, cool, I did that. Now let's do the next one, and let's go. And I have to get worried and get stressed out about the next start instead of really just sitting back, taking time to enjoy what I just did. It's a very tough thing to do. And, I was fortunate enough to do it. My catcher did a great job calling the right pitches, and we worked great that night. And so it just was, if I'm looking back, I would have loved to have enjoyed it a little bit more. But yeah, man, I'm so thankful that it happened. And, I enjoy it now and kind of have a little notch in the belt of, I got a complete game shutout. Not many relievers have that.
So then, right, so you finished the season with the Rockies, and you began the next season with the Rockies, but then you went down to AAA. What did that mean for you, and how did that really affect you?
Yeah, so in this, let's see, that was 2015 spring training. I rolled my ankle about a week and a half or 2 weeks before the season was supposed to start. They told me I was going to be the home opener. And, I put all this pressure on myself again. Didn't know how to handle it. Rolled my ankle thinking, oh no, I don't know if I'm going to be ready for it. I blah, 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 all this stuff. And all that pressure, all that stress, I think it just led up to me getting the yips, where it got so bad at a point where, I think it was a game in San Francisco, like a third or fourth start that year. I threw about 100 pitches, and 75 of them were changeups because it was the only pitch I could throw over the plate. The fastball, if I threw it, ended up at the backstop. I remember throwing pitches as a left-handed pitcher behind the right-handed hitters. I almost killed Goldschmidt with a fastball that was like behind him. Hit Rizzo like in the head. Like I was all over the place, man. And I didn't deserve to be out there. I had no idea where baseball was going. And I was trying to have that mental strength of just like go out there and compete, be aggressive, blah, blah, blah. But this was a whole different monster. And I think the pressure just led to it. And eventually, my mind just snapped and it kind of just froze, and eventually it led to my demotion to AAA and then all the way down to single A that year. Actually, I went to short season, which is Boise, and played there for a couple games, and it was so bad I think I remember throwing 20 balls in a row when I was down there.
Yeah.
And eventually just went home and was all right, this ain't my thing. I'm gonna go home.
Right. So then you had surgery, and then you were on the DL to start the next season.
Yeah, see, I don't know where people get this. I think it's because I was on the DL, but I never had surgery. They put me on the DL, but they put me on the DL for just mental things, right? I just mentally wasn't able to compete, and so they were using it as like an injury. So they put me on the DL, but physically I was perfectly fine.
So then after that, you kind of trigger the whirlwind of starting playing with different teams. How did that really affect you? You played with the White Sox for spring training, and then next year you played with the Mariners, and then you played brilliantly with in Texas with the Texas Airhounds. How did that affect you mentally?
Yeah, so with the White Sox, they picked me up right out of right after kind of getting released or whatever from the Rockies. And then they released me at the end of spring training. And I was thinking, all right, well, I'm a first rounder from, back in the day. Like, I'll be able to find a team. Somebody will for sure want to pick me up. And so all of 2017, I just sat at home, didn't get picked up, nothing, kept throwing. And I started sitting there going, all right, well, maybe baseball's done for me. I haven't done anything, in 2 or 3 years where I'm actually like even able to compete in the big league field. So I sat down that year actually with my wife and said like, hey, I think I'm done with baseball. I think I'm going to go to school and just kind of give it up and see where my life takes me in another direction. And she broke down crying, saying like, no, I think you have more to offer the game. Like, I think you're bigger than this. You're better than this. Yips. Like, I think you should keep going. I want you to keep going. I'm like, all right, well, we're not going to be making any money. And she's like, it's fine, whatever. We'll figure it out. Not a big deal. So from that point on, I kind of restarted my career, so to speak. My Michael McHenry, the catcher from with me in Colorado, he called me up and said, hey man, in the offseason after 2017, called me up and said, hey man, I got a guy you need to meet. His name's Jason Kuhn. You need to come out to Nashville, Tennessee, and you need to come out here and work with us. And I said, all right, sounds good. Bought a plane ticket, stayed at McHenry's house for about a week. And he introduced me to Jason Kuhn, he works with, his company's called Stonewall Solutions. He's an ex-Navy SEAL. And this guy changed my life for the better, on the field, off the field, everywhere. I swear by this guy. He's just, first off, a great human being. Second, he knows his stuff. So once I started working with him, I started realizing like, man, I can do this. So that off season in 2017, I went to the California Winter League, which nobody's ever heard of because it's like an independent ball winter league. And I was just like, I need to face hitters and start figuring out why I can't throw a strike when there's a hitter in the box. And so I went there. You had to pay $3,000 just to play in the league. And so obviously I paid in, went for it. And the Mariners came and saw me, Texas came and saw me, and I think the Diamondbacks came and saw me. So ended up going with the Mariners in spring training. I was kind of doing better, not really. Andy McKay at the time was the new farm director there, who was my mentals guy back in Colorado. And so he said, hey man, what I think you need to do, like, you can stay here. I agreed that you'd get a year here. We'd have to renegotiate your contract where you're not making as much money, or we're going to have to release you and then you can go play indie ball. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to take my release and I'm going to go play indie ball because I want to play in front of fans in a stadium, playing some hitters in a competitive game. So I think that's the best thing for you. So there we go. Now I'm with the Air Hogs. First year with the Air Hogs, I'm starting, doing okay, kind of just cruising, throwing like 85, 86, 87 miles an hour. Nothing special. End of the year, go to Driveline, start working on my mechanics, kind of fix them a little bit. The mental stuff starting to clean up because I'm working with Jason. I'm starting to apply some of those things, and it's taking time, but I'm applying a lot of the lessons he's taught me over that season. Again, go up the Driveline, mechanics start fixing themselves. They got, start getting fixed. All of a sudden I'm up to throwing 95, 96 again. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I know where it's going. Like, okay, I'm starting to figure this out. It's close. We're 90% there kind of thing. Diamondbacks see me, pick me up, take me to spring training. I'm in there throwing, 4, 5, 6, 94, 95, 96, around the zone, not pinpoint, around the zone, still some mechanical things I need to clean up. When I came in there, they said, hey, we have a 2-year plan for you. We see this being a long-term thing, blah, blah, blah. I was there for like 3 weeks before they released me. So back to the Air Hogs. All right, go back to the Air Hogs. I tell the Air Hogs, hey, I want to be a reliever. I think that's the best chance I'm going to have of getting picked up out of here. And I said, all right, if you're going to be the reliever, we're going to make you the closer then. And I said, all right, sounds good. So I started closing games for them. Next thing you know, I'm out there throwing 97, 98, 99. The pitching coach made a quick adjustment. He's like, hey, man, you're a little bit late and slow here. Just think about getting your arms straight up here. Okay. Just think about it. So I started thinking of just doing it. It doesn't really go straight there. Kind of goes in like a big arc. But just the thought process of shortening up that arm action timed up my delivery so much better, where I started not being able to miss a spot and I started throwing them a lot harder. And so I kind of just had my agent, hey, start calling some teams. And he said, all right, I'm going to see if I can get anybody out there. It's going to be hard to get people out there to come see you, but try. And I'm like, well, tell them I'm throwing upper 90s and I'm throwing great and blah, blah, blah. So Braves I don't know who sent out a scout for the Braves, sent me out. 2000, it was 2019. So they sent me out. They signed me, go to AA, dominate in AA, go to AAA. Had an okay year in AAA, wasn't great. And then 2020 spring training comes, and that's when I, really showed them what I could do. I finally figured I felt 100% at that point, just throwing the ball great, and was fortunate to make it up with them again.
Right. So it sounds like a really awesome, really, really, really,
I know it was a little long-winded, but that was the easiest way to explain it without going back and forth in it, because it just roll it all out.
That's fine. No, it's really great to be able to show someone how much progression you made from being down and not being great and being not
terrible.
Yeah,
exactly. Being terrible.
Yeah,
I was terrible. You can say it.
Right. And that being a great place mentally, and then being able to go to making the opening day roster this past season. Yeah. How much of an accomplishment was that for you?
Honestly, that was a bigger accomplishment for me than my major league debut. When I made my major league debut, it wasn't that it was like guaranteed to me, but it was like the Rockies were going to give it to you, because if they didn't, there'd be people getting fired because you pick this guy in the first round. He doesn't play one game in the big leagues. So it was kind of like, we got to push this guy along and make it happen. With the Braves, I had no reason. I wasn't on the 40 man. They had nothing invested in me. I had nothing, no leverage. I was just a guy that was filling a spot. And, that moment of being out on a big league field was what drove me to keep working hard from that 2017 sit down with my wife to that 2020 first game back on the mound in the big league stadium. Right. That was the vision I had for those 3 years. It was me out on that mound in a big league stadium, getting people out in a big league field. And to see it happen was just like, to be there, it was just like, wow, it finally is here. Now that we're here, don't let it go. Don't let it go. Be aggressive. Do exactly what you did to get to this point.
Right. So I'm sure that you didn't picture having entire stadiums that are empty throughout the course of the season. How did that really affect you at all? And I've been privileged to speak with a couple of players who said that was obviously really weird, but I'm just interested to see what your take at mentally and that affect.
Yeah, I think as a pitcher, especially as a reliever, it didn't bug me as much, because when I come in, I got adrenaline running through my veins, and I'm so locked in on the catcher that even if there were fans in the stands or not, I wouldn't see them, or I wouldn't even think about them. I wouldn't hear them. It doesn't really come into play. I think as a position player, I think they kind of have to have that energy that's in the stands to kind of up their game, because they're playing for 4+ hours, or they need some external energy to allow them to compete throughout the entire game. Mm-hmm. Man, it could be dead silent and I'm going to have my adrenaline flowing because I'm in there for 10 minutes and that's all I get for the day. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to just give it 110%.
So do you have any goals for yourself for this year?
Man, I just want to go out and do the exact same thing I did last year. I was pleased with how my year went last year. And I think that if I can go out there and just keep attacking the zone, strike out guys as often as I can, and keep as few runs from, coming over the plate, that's what I plan on doing. Mm-hmm. I don't like putting numbers on things. I don't like putting, I want to make the AllStar team or whatever. I mean, that'd be nice, but again, that's someone else's judgment of my abilities this season. I just want to go out there and compete and win. And my biggest judgment of myself is I just want to be aggressive. Did I make an aggressive pitch every single time I threw the ball towards the plate? So that's my goal.
Yeah, sounds like a great goal. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I'm probably stuff from Jason Kuhn. So a big thing that he taught me was he calls it the 3 rings or the 3 circles. And you have your internal circle, which is like the handful of people that you really, really care about. Your mom, your dad, your loved one, people that want to see you succeed, and they will always give you information, good or bad, to make you a better person tomorrow. That's your inner circle, and that's who you should seek affirmation from. The second ring is a group of your group of friends, possibly your brothers or sisters. Sometimes they give you good advice. Sometimes they give you not bad advice, but just advice that maybe wouldn't make you the best person the next day. And they're the second group. You kind of listen to some things they say and you kind of respect what they say, but not always do you think that they're right. And then the outer circle is, or the outer ring is, group 3, which is for us in the big leagues. It's the media, it's fans that are texting you or like writing on Instagram and Twitter. It's fans that are screaming at you in the stadium. All those people mean nothing. They're just noise, and don't seek those people's affirmation, and those people's opinions of you are not going to change who you believe and how you believe in yourself. So again, the most important thing is find that collection of 2, 3, 4 people that are in your inner circle, get your affirmation from those people, and believe and trust what those people are saying. And if you don't have those people, I mean, you should just find them. It can be a great friend of yours, or it doesn't really matter who they are to you, as long as you believe that that person is going to give you the best information to be the best person tomorrow.
Right. All right. Listen, thank you again for joining me today, and stay tuned for the next episode launching very shortly.